The RCMP has recently released a report called The Whole of Government 5-Year Trends for Canada, and the emphasis is on Canadians present a major threat if they realize they won't own a home. And they are stating that this is a scanning exercise, and they believe that our country is quite potentially going into a level of destabilization. I'm not sure how you all feel about this, but I, as you know, or have followed me all along, you know, I'm not big fans of the federal government because I don't think that in the last 2 terms that our fearless leader has been in power, he has served the Canadian population with any credibility whatsoever. So, just to recap on the article, and I don't normally like to quote Better Dwelling because a lot of times they can sensationalize things. And I feel the context of the information has been presented in such a way that they are literally doing it for the clicks. But this particular report was released by the RCMP, and it's a bit discerning because, as you all know, I do quite often state that housing should be a right in Canada. And let me clarify, when I say housing should be a right, I don't mean that it should be free and handed out to the woke population. I mean that it should be available for us to purchase at reasonable amounts. When I say reasonable amounts, I mean that housing affordability, taxes, all of our utilities that are associated with it, just our general living expenses in Canada really need to be a right based on the fact that we have such a high level of taxation. Apparently, with all of this taxation we have, it's supposed to pay for our free medical system, which other countries used to tout as being amazing, but as any Canadian knows, is not. And basically, it's not free. We pay for it with our taxes. And unfortunately, prime example, my mother's been waiting for almost an entire year to have not a complicated test done, but a fairly simple test that's required to see if there's a significant problem with her. That's an example of our healthcare system right now. It's great if you're healthy and you don't need it, but when you need it, you better be associated to some doctors or know how to advocate for yourself because it sucks. Anyhow, so highlight on the article, locking a class out of land ownership has historically driven instability and ruined economies. This report doesn't get into the details, but the destabilizing impact of wealth polarization is a very real issue. The transfer of housing from end users or even, and I've stated this before, mom and pop landlords to institutional investors results in communities being reduced into yield generating assets. As a consequence, prioritization of wealth extraction occurs without regard for the long-term sustainability, leaving communities vulnerable to shock. So I know there are a very large contingent of you out there that hate the landlord and they hate the mom and pop investor, but it's the mom and pop investor that have a vested interest in its local community and want to serve it. Yes, there are many examples of bad landlords, as there's many examples of bad individuals in any business. So we need not to dwell on that. But what we do need to look at is we need to look at the commercialization of housing and the overall impact that it's having on our economy as a country. Because again, I will state this over and over again, what is Canada producing right now? We have a government that's basically extracted all of our economy. All of the jobs that have come to market predominantly have been government related. That does not produce in our economy. That just sucks it dry because it's government paying government. We need to actually have production and we need to be producing something or giving back so that we are injecting dollars into the economy. The government does not inject dollars into the economy. The government takes dollars. So even government employees, You work in social services, you work in housing, you work in healthcare. Healthcare is maybe not a good example. What are you actually producing to provide for a transactional service that you are giving something and you are receiving it back? You're not in housing, you're not giving anything. You are ultimately skimming off the top of the Canadian citizens. We need to have an economy that is actually producing something. They are trying to strip the economy of all of our natural resources. They have taken away all of the incentivized promotional advantages to corporations and businesses to come into this country to set up shop. Source deductions, it's become tax prohibitive for businesses to want to start up here. I had a manufacturing company. I know what it costs to run a business in Canada. It is very expensive, and it's done nothing but become more and more expensive. Now you are taking housing away. This is something that is unacceptable. Recently, the Toronto Police Force reported that we're just supposed to leave our key fobs by the front door so that when people break into our houses, they don't harm us. They just steal our vehicle. What the has Canada turned into? This is unacceptable. And reading this article really ultimately to me is sort of, it puts it all into perspective that what I've been saying all along and really truly hoping and wanting to believe that it's not true, it is all coming true. And the existing government in place right now actually recognizes it and they acknowledge it. So, I mean, you've got the fact that we have the RCMP worried that this problem could brew over time. And a more immediate issue is one capitalism originally sought to address land hoarding and productivity. So Adam Smith, credited with creating capitalism's foundational works, criticized the state's focus on taxing labor over land, which creates a natural land monopoly. The result is a gilded class that extracts the wealth created from labor, draining a nation of its ability to grow productivity. Canada is already approaching a lost decade as a result of its over-reliance on real estate. It's not just real estate, it's the fact that they've stripped us of all productivity in this country. The young people are decades out from achieving any quantitative factor towards success. I know myself personally, if I was young, I'd be leaving and starting off in another country where there is hope, kind of like all of our ancestors did when they came here. They came to Canada because it was a country filled with hope. I truly believe that that has been lost in the last political terms of our federal government. They have guided this throughout, and here we are. So, that being said, I think you have to work really hard in order to achieve success in this country. I think that the traditional methods of going to school, getting educated, getting a job, buying a house, I think those things are done. I think that you maybe need to have a side hustle, 1, 2, or 3 in order to get ahead. And I think that you need to potentially consider investing in either other provinces or other countries in order to achieve half of the success of what our parents did. A very realistic possibility unless we get this federal government out. So that's all. Peace out. Happy Friday. And y'all know I love to talk politics. So there you go. Ciao for now.